Now, to preview this historic meeting between North Korea and the U.S., we have with us Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Thank you for coming in today.
Pleased to be here.
Now, the White House has revealed that Kim Jong-un and Trump will meet at 9 a.m. in Singapore. However, we currently have no idea actually how long the meeting is going to be and no real details as such. But we don't know if it's going to be a marathon session or if it's just going to be a meet and greet, a short session, as getting to know you session, as Trump has previously suggested. What do you think we should be expecting?
I think we should be grateful that at least the summit meeting is going to happen, and we know the exact time and place that when the meeting is going to take place. So we have to appreciate what you already know. Having said that, there's a lot of uncertainties involved in the summit meeting between President Donald Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un still yet, because according to the last press interview of President Donald Trump, it would be just part of the process. He mentioned the word process 9 times recently in the interviews on the summit meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. So I don't think there is going to be any definite signing of the big deal between Washington and Pyongyang on the front of the North Korea's denuclearization in ways that will satisfy the demands and expectations of Washington and its allies, or North Korea's expectation of the guarantee of the security of the regime in North Korea. But it'll be a very useful and productive first meeting between the two leaders, because at the end of the day, considering the nature of the issue and considering the nature of the North Korean leadership, it should be a top-down approach, not bottom-up, that is more conducive to making breakthrough with regard to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs.
The fact that the details and the time has been announced, but the location hasn't been finalized yet, but we expect it to be the Shangri-La Hotel. What do you make of that choice, and what do you think is the most important aspect of that location?
Well, I think it's facilitating the security and the optic of the groundbreaking summit meeting between North Korea and the United States, because this will be the first time ever that the heads of the two states in a hostile relations is going to have the summit meeting, and Singapore has been chosen as a neutral ground for both countries. Now we have learned that when then CIA Director Mike Pompeo was having a meeting with his counterpart, Vice President, Chairman of the Korean Workers' Party, Kim Young-chul, who delivered the personal letter of Kim Jong-un to the White House. Mr. Kim insisted that the summit meeting had to take place in Pyongyang. He spent 90 minutes of the entire meeting with Mike Pompeo to insist that the meeting to take place in Pyongyang, and the United States government insisted and even threatened to just cancel the meeting. That is only when Pyongyang showed flexibility about the venue of the summit meeting, and Singapore was chosen by both sides, although there was a reservation inside the White House that Singapore might be too close to quote-unquote China. So Shangri-La Hotel has been well known for its annual hosting of the meetings of the defense ministers of many countries, Shangri-La Dialogue. So judging from the fact that the summit meeting is going to deal with the security issues between North Korea and the United States since the Korean War, then it is a right place.
The fact that the detail of the time has been announced, does it show that progress is being made behind the scenes? For example, like at the talks at Panmunjom?
Well, it depends on how you define progress. If you're talking about progress that eventually lead all of us to the complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization of North Korea, then I would say that we have a long way to go, because the process itself, even based upon complete agreement between North Korea and the United States, is estimated to take place about 10 to 15 years, according to a nuclear scientist. So what is important in terms of making the right progress at this point is to confirm the genuine intentions of the North Korean leadership about complete and irreversible denuclearization meeting the demands of the United States, and North Korea accepting the quid pro quo, the concessions by Washington about how to lift economic sanctions and providing reliable and verifiable security guarantee for the leadership in Pyongyang.
But still, compared to last week when Trump had threatened to pull out of the summit altogether, it's still quite a turnaround. Do you think it shows how badly the two sides really want this summit to happen, especially North Korea, as they've had to almost concede the higher ground after Trump threatened to pull out?
You're absolutely correct that North Korea showed its desperation that it badly needed this summit meeting to make the breakthrough, considering the current situation under the maximum pressure imposed by the UN Security Council resolutions and the unilateral actions by United States, Japan, South Korea, and China. We all know that after President Trump announced his intention to cancel the meeting in the form of issuing the personal letter. Then in less than 9 hours, Pyongyang issued a personal letter written by Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kim Jong-un, to show very low-key and conciliatory attitude toward the United States. And although it took the form of personal letter, the letter specifically mentioned that Mr. Kim wrote the letter with the authority delegated from the top. So basically, it's a clear expression of the desperate intentions of Mr. Kim Jong-un to go ahead with the summit meeting. So after that cancellation of the summit meeting by the United States, the balance of power between Pyongyang and Washington quickly shifted in favor of Washington.
Now that the time is set, we can almost start imagining the two meetings happening now. We can see them meeting in the morning, possibly at the Shangri-La Hotel. But there was a U.S. magazine, Politico magazine, had a very good piece looking at all the aspects of the meeting, from the handshake to the potential meal and gift giving. Now, I'm not going to copy exactly what they talk about, but one of the top priorities on the list was security. How big will the security operation have to be? Because especially with Kim Jong-un leaving the comfort of Pyongyang and North Korea to go to a third country, which he has almost never done.
Right, this will be his first long trip outside the country since he assumed the power in 2011. And there's a lot of concerns about the safety of his trip from Pyongyang to Singapore because the North Korea's Air Force One, Chanbe No. 1, is a very old airplane manufactured in Soviet Union in 1962. So I think it is unavoidable for Kim Jong-un and his delegation to have a layover in China for refueling and other logistic considerations. And security preparations for Supreme Authority of North Korea outside the country will be the first experience for the security guards of North Korean government and security bureau. So it'll be a big challenge for Kim Jong-un and North Korean delegation. But on the light side, I mean, the world is going to pay attention to how they're going to exchange handshakes.
Yes, of course.
And the other topic of speculation is that as an icebreaker, they might just banter on how they take care of their own famous or infamous hairstyles.
Yes, as you said, they talk about the handshake there, Trump's notorious grip and tug, or grip and pull as they call it. But they also have very other different physical aspects like height and age difference. How important is the image for Kim to not be overpowered by Trump, who has the age and has the height and possibly the physical aspects as well?
It's going to be a big challenge to Mr. Kim Jong-un, I personally think, because it is true that the North Korea's propaganda has been quite improved after Kim Yo-jong assumed the position of the vice head of the propaganda bureau of the Korean Workers' Party. So propaganda programs of North Korea has been finer and more delicate, meeting with global trends and standards. But at the same time, North Korean leader does not want to look weak-kneed in front of his own people, because in the age of the internet, North Korean leadership cannot really block every bit of information about the summit meeting to infiltrate inside North Korea. So it is very important and essential for Kim Jong-un to pose the right image as the absolute and confident leader of North Korea, shoulder to shoulder to the leader of the most powerful country in the world, that is the United States. But as you pointed out correctly, that in terms of physical attributes, then Kim Jong-un needs more polishing. It's a dilemma for Mr. Kim, because if he emphasizes the image of the very strong leader, for instance, wearing the Mao suit, assuming very stern, facial expression, then it doesn't help North Korean leadership look to be ready to become so-called normal country, after it will abandon its nuclear weapons and receiving, economic assistance from outside. But if Kim Jong-un poses exceedingly soft image, for the sake of projecting the image of North Korean leadership, rational and ready to make a strategic decision to join the real world, as Donald Trump once described, then it will not look good in the eyes of North Korean people back home, that your leader is so different from their usual expectations. So keeping the right balance between these two images will be a big issue for Mr. Kim Jong-un.
Now, before we go, there's a couple of things I do want to point out as well. For example, there are reports coming today that says Air China is starting to restart its flights from Beijing to Pyongyang. They were stopped 6 months ago in response to upping the sanctions and pressure on Pyongyang. But now they're starting again. Does it already show that the pressure on North Korea is being lifted? And what does that mean going forward?
Well, one swallow does not make summer, so you do not want to make too much out of this, commercial decision made by Chinese airline company, because there is already a chartered airplane shuttling back and forth between Pyongyang and Cheongdo of China. So China is ready to make its own contributions to providing North Korea economic assistance and economic cooperation programs if the situation is going to be ripe. But as the White House spokesperson announced, that the Trump administration has confirmed that unless North Korea is going to complete the process of denuclearization, then the policy of maximum pressure and maximum engagement will not be changed from maximum pressure to maximum engagement. So if China moves too early ahead of the United States, then China is going to be criticized by Washington as willful, meddling for North Korea. So China is going to be cautious in terms of its resumption of economic cooperation with North Korea.
And finally, North Korean state media so far hasn't really mentioned the U.S. summit over the last few days, and there seems to be no mention of Kim Young-chul's visit to the U.S. What should we read into this?
Why would they? Why would they, openly celebrate the meeting between Mr. Kim Young-chul and President Donald Trump in the White House, when the White House made him wait in China and in New York City without giving the green light for him to make a direct trip to Washington, D.C., yeah, considering that he was carrying the personal letter of the Supreme Leader of North Korea. So it was a kind of a cold shower in the eyes of North Korean government. So there's nothing to be openly celebrating by North Korean leadership and sell it aggressively to the North Korean public. So it is kind of the aspect of the negotiations taking place between North Korea and United States, and North Korean government would want to try to minimize.
Well, that's all we have time for today, but I look forward to breaking down the results of the North Korea-U.S. summit after it's finished next time.
I look forward to it.